One moment of public humiliation can destroy a life, but for Clara Bennett, it opened the door to a dangerous world she never imagined. When a powerful stranger steps forward and claims her as his wife in front of hundreds of people, Clara's entire world flips upside down. Lorenzo Moretti, a name that makes the whole city tremble, has chosen her. But what price comes with that lie? And when real love begins to bloom amid violence and power, can Clara survive in his world? Follow this story to the end, hit like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Clara Bennett stood in the corner of the Waldorf ballroom trying to make herself invisible, which was harder than it sounded when you were wearing a borrowed dress that didn't quite fit and shoes that pinched with every step. The gala was supposed to be a professional opportunity. Networking, her boss had said, as if Clara had any business rubbing elbows with Manhattan's elite. She worked in accounts receivable for a mid-tier consulting firm. She answered phones. She filed expense reports. She had no idea why Martin Dalton insisted she attend tonight, except maybe to fetch drinks or hold his coat. The chandeliers above sparkled like captured stars, and everyone around her looked like they belonged in a magazine spread. Women in gowns that cost more than Clara's annual rent. Men in tailored suits that probably required 3 fittings. She'd done her best, pulled her dark hair into a neat bun, borrowed a simple black dress from her roommate, even splurged on a lipstick she saw in a commercial. But standing here now, surrounded by wealth and confidence she'd never possess, Clara felt like a child playing dress-up. "Is that Clara from accounting?" The voice came from behind her, loud enough to carry. Clara's stomach dropped. She turned slowly and saw 3 women from her office, Vanessa, Jill, and Katie, all dressed in designer everything, all looking at her with thinly veiled amusement. "Oh my God, it is," Vanessa said, her smile sharp. "I didn't know they were letting the support staff in tonight." Jill laughed, the sound high and cruel. "Did Martin bring you as his assistant? Someone has to carry his business cards, I guess." Claire's face burned. She wanted to say something cutting, something that would shut them down, but her throat tightened and her mind went blank. This was how it always went. She froze. She smiled. She took it. "That dress is cute," Katie added, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "Very budget-friendly." "Leave her alone." The words came from someone else. A junior analyst named Eric, who Clara barely knew. He stepped between them, his expression uncomfortable but earnest. "Seriously, what's wrong with you?" Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Relax, Eric, we're just talking." "You're being assholes," Eric muttered, but the women had already turned away, their laughter trailing behind them like poison. Clara's hands shook. She pressed them against her sides and forced herself to breathe. It wasn't the first time she'd been the butt of the joke, and it wouldn't be the last. She'd learned a long time ago that people like Vanessa didn't see her as a person, just a target, someone safe to kick because she wouldn't kick back. "You okay?" Eric asked quietly. Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. Eric gave her a sympathetic look and drifted away, probably embarrassed to be associated with her now. She didn't blame him. She needed air. She needed to leave. She'd stayed long enough to make an appearance. Martin couldn't complain. Clara turned toward the exit, weaving through clusters of conversation and champagne-fueled laughter, when a hand caught her elbow. "Clara Bennett!" She turned, startled, and found herself face to face with Martin Dalton himself. Her boss was a man in his 50s with thinning hair, a paunch he tried to hide under expensive suits, and a smile that never reached his eyes. Tonight, he looked particularly pleased with himself. "Leaving already?" Martin asked, though his tone suggested he didn't actually care. Clara hesitated. "I wasn't feeling well." Martin's gaze flicked over her, dismissive. "Before you go, I need you to handle something." Clara's heart sank. "What is it?" "See that gentleman over there?" Martin nodded toward a tall man in a charcoal suit standing near the bar, his back to them. "That's Richard Crane, very important client. I need you to introduce yourself, tell him I'll be over in a moment, and keep him entertained until I'm free." Clara blinked. "Entertained?" "You know, small talk, smile, be pleasant." Martin's tone turned impatient. "You can manage that, can't you?" Clara wanted to say no. She wanted to tell Martin that she wasn't his performing monkey, that she didn't owe him anything beyond her job description, which definitely didn't include playing hostess at a gala. But the words died in her throat, same as always. Okay. Good girl. Martin patted her shoulder like she was a dog and walked away. Clara stood there for a moment, humiliation burning through her chest. Good girl. She was 28 years old and her boss talked to her like she was 12. She looked across the ballroom at Richard Crane, who was now facing her direction. He was older, maybe 60, with slicked back silver hair and a look of profound boredom. Clara forced herself to move. She approached slowly, her pulse hammering, and cleared her throat. Excuse me, Mr. Crane? The man glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Yes? I'm Clara Bennett. I work with Martin Dalton. He wanted me to let you know he'll be over shortly to speak with you. Did he? It wasn't a question. Richard Crane's gaze swept over her, cold and assessing, and Clara felt the judgment in it. And what exactly do you do for Martin? I work in accounts receivable. Ah. He took a sip of his drink. So you're no one important. The words hit like a slap. Clara opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She didn't know what to say. Richard Crane had already dismissed her, turning his attention back to the bar as if she'd ceased to exist. She should leave, she should walk away. But something kept her rooted in place, some stupid, stubborn part of her that refused to accept this. She wasn't no one. She wasn't nothing. Actually, Clara said, her voice shaking, she's my wife. The voice came from behind her, deep and smooth, and every head within earshot turned. Clara froze. She didn't recognize the voice, didn't know who had just spoken, but the words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't exploded yet. She turned slowly. The man standing behind her was tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his black suit perfectly. His hair was dark, swept back in a way that looked effortless, but probably wasn't. His face was striking, all sharp angles and strong lines, with eyes so dark they were almost black. He looked like he'd walked out of a cologne ad, except there was something about him that was too real, too raw. He didn't look friendly. He looked dangerous, and he was looking right at her. Excuse me? Clara whispered. The man stepped forward, closing the distance between them, and placed a hand on the small of her back. The touch was light, almost casual, but it sent a jolt through her entire body. He leaned down slightly, his mouth near her ear, and murmured, "Play along." Then he straightened and addressed Richard Crane with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Richard, good to see you." Richard Crane's expression had shifted from boredom to shock. "Lorenzo, I didn't realize you were—" He glanced at Clara, then back at the man. "Lorenzo, she's your wife?" "She is," Lorenzo said smoothly. He kept his hand on Clara's back, anchoring her in place, even as her mind screamed at her to run. "We've kept it quiet. You know how the press can be." Clara's heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. What the hell was happening? Who was this man, and why was he claiming she was his wife in front of a ballroom full of people? Richard Crane looked like he'd swallowed something sour. "I had no idea. Congratulations." "Thank you." Lorenzo's tone was pleasant, but there was an edge beneath it. "I trust you'll keep this between us. My wife values her privacy." "Of course." Richard Crane's gaze flicked to Clara again, reassessing her now. She could see the shift, the dismissal replaced by wary respect, because she wasn't no one anymore. She was Lorenzo's wife. "Enjoy your evening," Lorenzo said, and without waiting for a response, he guided Clara away. His hand stayed on her back, firm and unyielding, steering her through the crowd toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. Clara's legs moved on autopilot, her mind still stuck on what had just happened. When they were out of earshot, Clara yanked herself free and spun to face him. "What the hell was that?" Lorenzo looked down at her, his expression unreadable. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, and there was a faint scar running through his left eyebrow that only added to the sense that this was not a man you wanted to cross. "You looked like you needed help," he said simply. "Help?" Clara's voice rose, and she forced herself to lower it. "You just told a room full of people that I'm your wife. You don't even know me." "I know enough," Lorenzo said. "You know—" Clara stopped, incredulous. "What does that even mean?" Lorenzo tilted his head slightly, studying her. You work for Dalton Consulting. You handle their accounts receivable. You've been there for 3 years, and you're underpaid and undervalued. Your boss treats you like an errand girl, and your coworkers treat you worse. You're smart, but no one listens to you because you don't fight back. You take it, every time. Clara stared at him. Her mouth went dry. How do you... I notice things, Lorenzo said, and I've noticed you. That's... Clara didn't know what it was. Creepy, invasive, completely insane. You can't just go around claiming random women are your wife. You're not random, Lorenzo said, his voice quiet but firm. And I didn't do it on a whim. Then why? Clara demanded. Why me? Lorenzo was silent for a moment. Then he said, 3 weeks ago I saw you in a coffee shop near your office. You bought a coffee for the woman behind you in line because she was short on cash. Last week, you stayed late to help a coworker finish a report, even though he never thanked you. 2 days ago, you gave your lunch to a homeless man outside your building. You're kind, genuinely kind. That's rare. Clara's chest tightened. She didn't know whether to be flattered or terrified. So you've been stalking me. Observing, Lorenzo corrected. There's a difference. Not a big one, Clara shot back. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Lorenzo's mouth. Fair enough. Clara took a step back, trying to create some distance, some space to think. Look, I don't know who you are or what you want, but you can't just... Lorenzo Moretti. Clara blinked. What? My name. Lorenzo Moretti. He said it like it should mean something. It didn't. Clara shook her head. Am I supposed to know who that is? Lorenzo's smile widened, just slightly. Most people do. Well, I don't, Clara said. And I don't care. You need to go back out there and tell everyone you made a mistake. Tell them I'm not your wife. Tell them... No. Clara froze. No? No, Lorenzo repeated. I'm not taking it back. You have to. I don't have to do anything, Lorenzo said, his tone still calm but now laced with something harder. And neither do you. You can walk out of here right now and pretend this never happened. Or you can stay and let people think you're with me. Your choice. Clara stared at him. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of this, trying to find the logic in it. There wasn't any. This was insane. He was insane, and yet... She thought about Richard Crane's face when Lorenzo said she was his wife. The way the dismissal had turned to respect in an instant. She thought about Vanessa and Jill and Katie, about Martin Dalton and his good girl pat on the shoulder. She thought about every time she'd been invisible, every time she'd been nothing. What do you get out of this? Clara asked quietly. Lorenzo's gaze didn't waver. Does it matter? Yes. He considered that. I don't like bullies, he said finally, and I don't like watching good people get stepped on. Clara didn't know what to say to that. She didn't know what to say to any of this. She should leave. She should walk out the door and never look back. But instead she heard herself ask, what happens now? Lorenzo's smile returned, sharper this time. Now? Now everyone in this room knows you're not someone they can ignore anymore. The rest of the gala passed in a blur. Clara stayed, though she wasn't entirely sure why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was the way Lorenzo stayed by her side, his presence a wall between her and everyone else. People stared. Of course they did. Whispers followed them everywhere, and Clara could feel the weight of 100 eyes on her back. But no one approached her the way Vanessa had. No one made snide comments or dismissive jokes. They didn't dare, because she was with Lorenzo Moretti. Clara still didn't know who he was, but it was clear everyone else did. The way people looked at him, there was respect, yes, but also something else. Fear, maybe, or wariness, like he was a tiger someone had let off its leash. Martin Dalton found her near the end of the night, his face pale and his smile strained. Clara, I didn't realize you were... I had no idea you were connected to... He trailed off, glancing nervously at Lorenzo, who stood a few feet away talking to someone Clara didn't recognize. Connected to? Clara prompted, her voice cool. Martin swallowed. To Mr. Moretti. I apologize if there was any misunderstanding earlier. Clara almost laughed. Misunderstanding. That was one way to put it. It's fine, Martin. Good. That's good. Martin looked like he wanted to say more, but Lorenzo glanced over, and Martin practically fled. When Lorenzo returned to her side, Clara raised an eyebrow. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Lorenzo said innocently. "You looked at him, and he ran." "I have that effect on people." Clara shook her head, but she couldn't quite suppress the small smile tugging at her lips. This was insane. All of it. And yet, for the first time in years, she didn't feel small. Bad. Lorenzo insisted on driving her home. Clara protested. She could take the subway. It was fine. But he ignored her and led her to a sleek black car parked outside the Waldorf. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his cheek, opened the door without a word. Clara slid into the back seat, and Lorenzo followed. The interior was all leather and polished wood, and it smelled faintly of expensive cologne. Clara felt out of place again, but this time it didn't sting as much. "Where do you live?" Lorenzo asked. Clara hesitated. Giving him her address felt like crossing a line she wasn't ready to cross. But he'd already crossed so many tonight that one more hardly seemed to matter. Astoria, Queens. Lorenzo relayed the address to the driver, and the car pulled smoothly into traffic. They rode in silence for a few minutes, the city lights flashing past the tinted windows. Clara's mind was still spinning, trying to process everything. "Why did you really do it?" she asked finally. Lorenzo glanced at her. "I told you." "No," Clara interrupted. "You told me you noticed me. You told me I'm kind, but that doesn't explain why you'd lie to an entire ballroom full of people. There has to be more to it." Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm not a good man, Clara." Clara frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I do things most people wouldn't approve of. I make decisions that hurt people. I live in a world where kindness is weakness and trust gets you killed." He looked at her, his dark eyes unreadable. "And then I saw you. You, giving away your lunch to a stranger. You, staying late to help someone who won't even thank you. You standing in that ballroom tonight, taking insult after insult and still trying to be polite. He stopped, as if searching for the right words. "It reminded me that not everyone is rotten." Clara's chest tightened. She didn't know what to say to that. She didn't know if she believed him. But there was something in his voice, something raw and honest, that made her think maybe he was telling the truth. "What you did tonight," Clara said quietly, "it's going to have consequences. For both of us." "I know," Lorenzo said. "People are going to ask questions. They're going to dig into my life. And they're going to figure out I'm nobody." "You're not nobody," Lorenzo said sharply. "Don't say that." "I'm not your wife," Clara countered. "And when people find out the truth, they won't." Clara blinked. "What?" Lorenzo leaned back in his seat, his expression calm. "They won't find out. Because as far as the world is concerned, you are my wife." Clara's heart skipped. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious." "Lorenzo," Clara stopped, unsure how to even begin arguing with this. "You can't just decide we're married. That's not how it works." "It is in my world," Lorenzo said. "I said you're my wife. That makes it true." "That's insane." "Maybe." Lorenzo's gaze didn't waver. "But it's done. And now you have a choice. You can walk away, go back to your life, and deal with the fallout on your own. Or you can stay, and I'll make sure no one ever treats you the way they did tonight, ever again." Clara stared at him. Her mind screamed at her to say no, to get out of this car and never look back. But another part of her, a smaller, quieter part, whispered, "What if? What if she stayed? What if she let this dangerous, impossible man protect her? What if just once she didn't take the safe route?" "I need time," Clara said finally, "to think." Lorenzo nodded. "Take all the time you need." The car pulled up outside her apartment building, a modest brick structure in a quiet neighborhood. Clara reached for the door handle, but Lorenzo's voice stopped her. "Clara." She looked back at him. "Whatever you decide," Lorenzo said, "know this. I didn't do this on a whim, and I don't make promises I can't keep. If you stay, I will protect you, no matter what." Clara's throat tightened. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and stepped out of the car. She stood on the sidewalk and watched as the black car pulled away, disappearing into the night. Then she turned and walked into her building, her mind racing with 1,000 questions and no answers. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the gala. Lorenzo's voice, his hand on her back, the way he'd looked at Richard Crane and made the man shrink, the way he'd looked at her and made her feel seen. By morning, her phone had exploded. Texts from coworkers she barely knew, asking if it was true. An email from Martin requesting a meeting to discuss her situation. Even a voicemail from Vanessa, her tone suddenly syrupy sweet. Clara ignored all of it. Instead, she sat at her tiny kitchen table with a cup of coffee and tried to think logically. Lorenzo Moretti. She pulled out her laptop and typed his name into the search bar. The results made her blood run cold. Lorenzo Moretti wasn't just wealthy. He wasn't just powerful. He was dangerous. The articles didn't say it outright. They were too careful for that. But the implications were there. Business magnate with rumored ties to organized crime. Controversial philanthropist under federal investigation. Manhattan's most feared investor. Clara closed the laptop, her hands shaking. She'd tied herself to a criminal, or at least someone everyone thought was a criminal, and now the entire city believed she was his wife. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Clara hesitated, then answered. Clara Bennett? The voice was smooth, professional. Yes? This is James Klein. I work for Mr. Moretti. He asked me to check in and see if you needed anything. Clara's mind went blank. No, I'm fine. He also wanted me to let you know that a car will pick you up at 9 tomorrow morning. He'd like to speak with you. I didn't agree to... It's not a demand, James said quickly. Just an invitation. But he hopes you'll accept. Clara closed her eyes. She could say no. She could hang up, block the number, and pretend none of this had happened, but she didn't. Okay, she said quietly. I'll be ready. The car arrived at exactly 9. Clara had spent an hour trying to decide what to wear before settling on jeans and a simple blouse. If Lorenzo Moretti wanted to talk, he could deal with the real her, not some polished version. The driver, the same scarred man from last night, opened the door without a word. Clara climbed in, her stomach twisting with nerves. They drove for 20 minutes, heading toward the Upper East Side. The car finally stopped in front of a sleek high-rise with a doorman and glass doors that probably cost more than Clara's entire apartment. The driver led her inside, past the doorman, who nodded respectfully, and into a private elevator. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse. Clara stepped out and froze. The space was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist furniture that looked like modern art, and a silence so complete it felt heavy. She'd never been somewhere this expensive in her life. Clara. She turned. Lorenzo stood in the doorway of what looked like a study, dressed casually in dark slacks and a white shirt rolled up to his elbows. He looked less intimidating than he had last night, but no less dangerous. Thanks for coming, he said. Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. Lorenzo gestured toward the study. We should talk. Clara followed him inside. The room was lined with bookshelves, a large desk dominating one corner. Lorenzo closed the door behind them and leaned against the desk, his arms crossed. I imagine you have questions, he said. A few, Clara said dryly. Lorenzo smiled faintly. Ask. Who are you? Really? I told you. Lorenzo Moretti. I Googled you, Clara said. The articles are mostly bullshit, Lorenzo interrupted, but not entirely. Clara's stomach dropped. So you are involved in things most people wouldn't approve of? Yes. Lorenzo's gaze didn't waver. I own businesses, legitimate ones, but I also have connections, relationships that exist in gray areas. I'm not a saint, Clara. I never claimed to be. Why me? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. If you're this powerful, this connected, why would you tie yourself to someone like me? Lorenzo pushed off the desk and took a step toward her. Because you're exactly what I said. Kind, real, untouched by the ugliness of my world. And because when I saw you last night, standing there taking abuse from people who aren't worth your time, I wanted to do something about it, so I did. But No buts, Lorenzo said firmly. I made my choice. Now you make yours. Stay, and I'll protect you. Leave, and I'll make sure no one connects you to me ever again. But decide, Clara, because I don't do half measures. Clara's heart pounded. She looked at him. This man who was a stranger and yet somehow wasn't. She thought about the gala, about the way he'd made her feel powerful. She thought about Vanessa's voice, dripping with contempt. She thought about Martin's good girl Pat. And she thought about the way Lorenzo had said, "You're not nobody." "If I stay," Clara said slowly, "what does that mean? What do you expect from me?" "Nothing you're not willing to give," Lorenzo said. "I'm not asking you to fall in love with me, Clara. I'm asking you to let me protect you, to let people think we're together so they'll leave you alone. Everything else? That's up to you." Clara took a shaky breath. This was insane. Completely, utterly insane. But maybe insane was exactly what she needed. "Okay," she said. Lorenzo's expression shifted. Surprise, maybe, or relief. "Okay? I'll stay," Clara said. "For now. But I have conditions." "Name them." "I want honesty. If I ask you something, you tell me the truth, no lies." "Done. And I want my own space. I'm not moving in here. Not yet." Lorenzo nodded. "Fair enough." "And—" Clara hesitated. "I want to know what I'm getting into. All of it. No surprises." Lorenzo's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I'll tell you what I can. Some things are better left unknown." "That's not good enough," Clara said. Lorenzo studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "You're right. Okay. I'll tell you everything, but not today. Today, we figure out how to make this believable. Tomorrow I'll answer every question you have. Deal?" Clara considered that. Then she nodded. "Deal." Lorenzo extended his hand. Clara looked at it, then took it. His grip was firm, warm, and it sent a jolt through her that she tried to ignore. "Welcome to my world, Clara Bennett," Lorenzo said. Clara wasn't sure if that was a promise or a threat. Maybe both. But she'd made her choice, and now she had to live with it. The first week was a disaster. Clara returned to work Monday morning expecting things to be different, but she wasn't prepared for how different. The second she stepped through the glass doors of Dalton Consulting, heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Vanessa intercepted her before she even reached her desk. "Clara, oh my God, we need to talk." Clara tried to sidestep her. "I have work to do." "Forget work." Vanessa grabbed her arm, her grip tight enough to hurt. "Is it true? Are you really married to Lorenzo Moretti?" "I don't think that's any of your business," Clara said, pulling free. "It's everyone's business," Vanessa shot back. "Do you have any idea who that man is? What he's connected to?" Clara's stomach twisted. "I know enough." "Do you?" Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Because I did some digging, and the things I found—" "Clara, you need to be careful. This isn't some fairy tale. Lorenzo Moretti is dangerous." "Thanks for the concern," Clara said flatly. "But I'm fine." She walked past Vanessa and headed for her desk, but the whispers followed her. She could hear snippets. Married. Moretti. How did she? What does he see in her? And each one felt like a needle under her skin. By lunch, Martin had called her into his office. "Clara," he said, his smile too wide, too eager. "Sit, please." Clara sat, her hands folded in her lap. Martin leaned back in his chair, trying to look casual and failing. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "For the other night. I didn't realize you were... Well, I didn't know about your connection to Mr. Moretti." "It's fine," Clara said. No, it's not fine." Martin waved his hand dismissively. "You're clearly an important asset to this company, and I should have recognized that sooner. In fact, I'd like to discuss a promotion." Clara blinked. "A promotion?" "Assistant account manager," Martin said. "More responsibility, better pay. You've earned it." Clara stared at him. She'd worked at Dalton Consulting for 3 years. She'd asked for a raise twice and been turned down both times. She'd watched less qualified people get promoted while she stayed stuck in the same position. And now, because Martin thought she was connected to Lorenzo Moretti, Suddenly she'd earned it? I'll think about it, Clara said. Martin's smile faltered. Think about it? Yes? Clara stood. Is there anything else? Martin looked like he wanted to argue, but he just shook his head. No. That's all. Clara walked out, her hands shaking. She should be happy. She should take the promotion and run. But all she felt was anger. Anger at Martin, at herself, at the whole broken system that only valued her because of who she was supposedly married to. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. How's your day going? Clara frowned. She typed back, Who is this? The response came immediately. Lorenzo. James gave me your number. Hope that's okay. Clara's chest tightened. She glanced around the office, suddenly paranoid that someone was watching, then typed, It's fine. Day's been weird. Weird how? Clara hesitated. Then she typed, People keep staring. My boss offered me a promotion. Everyone wants to talk to me now. And that's a problem? It is when they only care because of you. There was a pause. Then, want me to fix it? Clara's stomach dropped. No, don't fix anything. I just need to figure out how to deal with this. You will. Give it time. Clara didn't respond. She shoved her phone in her pocket and tried to focus on work, but the rest of the day dragged. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, she was exhausted. She stepped outside and found the black car waiting at the curb. The scarred driver, his name was Marcus, she'd learned, opened the door. Mister, Moretti asked me to pick you up, Marcus said. Clara wanted to argue, but she was too tired. She climbed in. The drive was short, and when Marcus pulled up outside her building, Clara expected him to let her out. Instead, he said, Mr. Moretti is upstairs. He asked if you'd join him for dinner. Clara's pulse quickened. He's in my apartment? With your permission, Marcus said quickly. He had James call your landlord. Everything's above board. Clara didn't know whether to be impressed or horrified. She got out of the car and headed upstairs, her mind racing. When she opened the door to her apartment, she found Lorenzo standing in her tiny kitchen, a bag of takeout on the counter. You broke into my apartment, Clara said. Lorenzo looked up, unfazed. I didn't break in. I got a key. That's not better. I brought food, Lorenzo said, holding up the bag. Thai. I remembered you mentioned you liked it. Clara stopped. When did I mention that? Lorenzo's expression shifted. Just slightly, like he'd been caught. You ordered it at lunch last week. I happened to notice. You happened to notice, Clara repeated slowly. Are you still watching me? I'm making sure you're safe, Lorenzo said. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Clara crossed her arms. You can't just show up here, Lorenzo. You can't just... I'm sorry. The words were quiet, but they stopped Clara mid-sentence. Lorenzo set the bag down and looked at her, his expression serious. You're right. I should have asked. I'm used to doing things my way, and I didn't think. I'm sorry. Clara didn't know what to say. She'd expected him to argue, to justify it, but he'd just apologized, and he looked like he meant it. Okay, she said finally. Okay? You can stay, for dinner, but next time you ask first. Lorenzo nodded. Deal. They ate sitting on Clara's worn couch, the containers spread out on the coffee table. It was surreal. Lorenzo Moretti, one of the most powerful men in New York, eating pad thai in her cramped apartment like it was the most normal thing in the world. How was work? Lorenzo asked. You mean aside from everyone treating me like a zoo animal? Clara said dryly. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. That bad? My boss offered me a promotion, Clara said. Not because I'm good at my job, because he thinks I'm connected to you. You are connected to me. You know what I mean? Clara set down her chopsticks. I don't want special treatment because people are afraid of you. I want to earn things on my own. Then quit, Lorenzo said. Clara blinked. What? Quit your job. You hate it. Your boss is an asshole. Your coworkers are worse, and you're wasting your talent filing expense reports. Lorenzo leaned back, his gaze steady. You want to earn things on your own? Start fresh somewhere else. I'll help you find something better. I don't need your help, Clara said automatically. I know you don't, Lorenzo said, but I'm offering anyway. Clara looked at him, searching his face for some sign that this was manipulation, some ulterior motive, but all she saw was honesty. He meant it. He actually meant it. "I'll think about it," Clara said finally. "That's all I'm asking." They finished eating in silence, and when Lorenzo stood to leave, Clara walked him to the door. He paused in the doorway, his hand on the frame. "Clara," he said, "I know this isn't easy, and I know I'm asking a lot, but I meant what I said. I'm going to protect you, whatever it takes." Clara's throat tightened. "Why do you care so much?" Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because no one protected me when I needed it, and I don't want that for you." Before Clara could respond, he was gone. She stood in the doorway, staring at the empty hallway, her chest aching with something she couldn't name. The next few days fell into a strange rhythm. Lorenzo texted her every morning, nothing intrusive, just a simple, "How are you?" or "Sleep well." Clara found herself looking forward to the messages, even though she told herself she shouldn't. He sent a car to pick her up from work, and twice he showed up at her apartment with dinner. They talked about everything and nothing, her childhood, his businesses, her favorite books, his hatred of modern art. He was easy to talk to, which surprised her. She'd expected someone colder, more distant, but Lorenzo listened when she spoke. Really listened. But there were moments when she saw the other side of him. The dangerous side. Like when a man approached them outside a restaurant, his tone aggressive, and Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted. His voice dropped, his posture changed, and the man backed off without another word. Or when Clara mentioned a coworker who'd been harassing her, and Lorenzo's expression turned to ice. "What's his name?" Lorenzo asked. "It doesn't matter," Clara said quickly. "I handled it." "Clara, I said I handled it." Lorenzo didn't push, but Clara saw the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands flexed. She made a mental note to never tell him if someone actually hurt her. She wasn't sure what he'd do, and she didn't want to find out. On Friday, Lorenzo invited her to dinner at his penthouse. Clara almost said no. Her apartment was one thing, but his space felt too intimate, too real. But she agreed because some part of her wanted to see him again. When she arrived, Lorenzo was in the kitchen, actually cooking. Clara stopped in the doorway, staring. "You cook?" she asked. Lorenzo glanced up, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Why is that surprising?" "Because you're, Clara gestured vaguely. "You. I assumed you had a chef." "I do," Lorenzo said. "But I like cooking. It's calming." Clara watched as he moved around the kitchen with an ease that seemed at odds with everything else about him. He was making pasta, fresh pasta, from scratch. She didn't even know that was possible. "Can I help?" Clara asked. Lorenzo handed her a knife. "Chop the basil." They worked in comfortable silence, and when the food was ready, they ate at the dining table overlooking the park. The pasta was incredible, better than anything Clara had ever tasted. She told him so, and Lorenzo looked genuinely pleased. "My grandmother taught me," he said. "She used to say that if you can't feed the people you care about, you're useless." "She sounds wise," Clara said. She was. Lorenzo's expression darkened slightly. "She died when I was 16. "I'm sorry," Clara said quietly. Lorenzo shook his head. "It was a long time ago." Clara wanted to ask more. What happened? How he ended up in this world? But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she said, "Tell me about your businesses. The legitimate ones." Lorenzo smiled faintly. "Real estate, mostly. I buy buildings, renovate them, sell them, some investments, a few restaurants." "That doesn't sound so bad," Clara said. "It's not," Lorenzo agreed. "But it's not the whole picture." "Then tell me the whole picture," Clara said. Lorenzo set down his fork, his gaze steady. "I told you I'd be honest. So here it is. I have connections to people who operate outside the law. I don't deal drugs, I don't traffic people, and I don't hurt anyone who doesn't deserve it. But I know people who do. And sometimes I help them. I launder money. I provide alibis. I make problems disappear. I'm not a saint, Clara. I never claimed to be." Clara's stomach twisted. She'd known on some level that this was the truth, but hearing it out loud made it real. "Have you ever killed anyone?" Lorenzo didn't flinch. "Yes." Clara's breath caught. "Who?" People who tried to kill me first, Lorenzo said. People who hurt my family. I don't kill for fun, Clara, but I don't lose sleep over it either. Clara looked down at her plate, her appetite gone. She didn't know what to say. She should be horrified. She should leave. But instead she just felt tired. Tired of pretending she didn't know what she was getting into. Tired of lying to herself. Why are you telling me this? Clara asked. Because you asked, Lorenzo said simply. And because I don't want you to find out from someone else. I don't want you to think I lied to you. Clara looked up at him. Do you regret it? Any of it? Lorenzo considered that. Some of it. Not all. That's honest, at least, Clara said. That's all I can give you, Lorenzo said. They finished dinner in silence, and when Clara stood to leave, Lorenzo walked her to the elevator. He didn't try to stop her, didn't ask her to stay. He just said, think about what I told you. If you want out, I'll understand. Clara nodded. She stepped into the elevator, and as the doors closed, she saw Lorenzo standing there, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. She rode down in silence, her mind spinning. She should want out. She should run as far and as fast as she could. But when she got home and climbed into bed, all she could think about was the way Lorenzo had looked at her, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered, and that terrified her more than anything else. Saturday morning, Clara woke to a knock on her door. She opened it to find Marcus holding a garment bag. Mr. Moretti asked me to deliver this, Marcus said. Clara took the bag, confused. What is it? He said you'd need it for tonight. Tonight? Marcus handed her an envelope. He'll pick you up at 7. Before Clara could ask what the hell he was talking about, Marcus was gone. She opened the envelope and found a handwritten note. There's an event tonight. I need you there. Please. Clara stared at the note, then unzipped the garment bag. Inside was a dress, deep emerald green, floor length, with a neckline that was elegant without being too revealing. It was stunning, and it probably cost more than her rent. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from Lorenzo. Before you say no, hear me out. This event is important. People need to see us together. Just a few hours. Then I'll leave you alone for the rest of the weekend. Clara typed back. You can't just send me a dress and expect me to show up. Can't I? Clara scowled at her phone. Then she typed, what kind of event? Charity gala. Very boring. You'll hate it. Then why do I have to go? Because I'll hate it less if you're there. Clara's chest tightened. She should say no. She should put the dress back in the bag and send it back with Marcus. But instead, she found herself typing, fine, but you owe me. Name your price. I'll think of something. Clara set the phone down and looked at the dress again. She was insane. Completely, utterly insane. But she was also, for the first time in years, not bored. Lorenzo arrived at exactly 7, dressed in a black tuxedo that fit him like a glove. Clara opened the door, and his expression shifted, just slightly, but enough that she noticed. You look beautiful, he said. Clara's face heated. Thanks. You clean up okay, too. Lorenzo smiled, and for a moment he looked younger, less dangerous. Ready? As I'll ever be. The gala was at the Metropolitan Museum, and Clara felt her anxiety spike as they pulled up to the red carpet. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Clara's stomach twisted into knots. I can't do this, she said. Yes, you can, Lorenzo said. He took her hand, his grip firm. Just stay with me. I'll handle the rest. Clara nodded, and they stepped out of the car. The cameras went wild. Clara heard someone shout, Mr. Moretti, who's your date? And Lorenzo responded smoothly, my wife. The word sent a jolt through her, wife. He said it so easily, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They made their way inside, and the gala was everything Clara expected. Opulent, overwhelming, and full of people who looked at her like she was an alien. But Lorenzo stayed by her side, his hand resting lightly on her back, and every time someone approached, he introduced her with the same calm confidence. This is my wife, Clara. Not Clara Bennett, not my assistant, or my date, just Clara. And every time he said it, something inside her shifted. They were halfway through the night when a man approached them, tall, silver-haired, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Lorenzo, the man said, I didn't expect to see you here. Victor, Lorenzo's tone was cool. Likewise. Victor's gaze slid to Clara, assessing. And who is this lovely creature? My wife, Lorenzo said, his voice flat. Victor's smile widened. Wife? How surprising. I didn't know you were the marrying type. There's a lot you don't know about me, Lorenzo said. The tension between them was thick enough to cut. Clara felt Lorenzo's hand tighten on her back, a silent warning. Well, Victor said, still smiling, congratulations. I hope she knows what she's gotten herself into. She does, Clara said, surprising herself. And I can speak for myself. Victor's smile faltered. He looked at Clara like he was seeing her for the first time. Feisty. I like that. I don't care what you like, Clara said. Lorenzo's grip on her back relaxed, and she could have sworn she saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Victor's expression darkened. Careful, Lorenzo. You know how fragile pretty things can be. Is that a threat? Lorenzo's voice dropped, and the air around them turned cold. Just an observation, Victor said. He tipped his head. Enjoy your evening. He walked away, and Clara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Lorenzo guided her toward a quieter corner of the room, his jaw tight. Who was that? Clara asked. Victor Castellano, Lorenzo said. He runs a rival organization. We have history. Bad history? The worst kind. Lorenzo looked at her, his expression serious. He's dangerous, Clara. If he approaches you again, you walk away. You don't engage. Understood? Understood, Clara said. Her heart was still racing. Did he just threaten me? He tried to, Lorenzo said. But you shut him down. Clara blinked. I did? You did. Lorenzo's expression softened. You were incredible. Clara didn't know what to say to that. She looked away, her face heating, and Lorenzo's hand found hers. Come on, he said. Let's get out of here. They left the gala early, and Lorenzo drove her home himself. No Marcus, no driver. They didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. When they reached her building, Lorenzo walked her to her door. Thank you, he said. For tonight, I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't so bad, Claire admitted. Except for Victor. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. I'll handle him. Lorenzo? I'll handle him, Lorenzo repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Clara looked at him, this man who was so determined to protect her, even from threats she didn't fully understand. You don't have to do this, you know. Protect me. I'm not actually your wife. Yes, you are, Lorenzo said quietly. Clara's breath caught. What? You are my wife, Lorenzo said. Maybe not legally, not yet, but in every way that matters, you are, and I protect what's mine. Clara's chest tightened. She didn't know whether to argue or kiss him. In the end, she did neither. She just nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Lorenzo leaned down and pressed a kiss to her forehead, soft, brief, but it burned. Good night, Clara. Good night, Clara whispered. She watched him walk away, and when she finally closed the door, she leaned against it and let out a shaky breath. This was getting too real, too fast, and she had no idea how to stop it, or if she even wanted to. Clara woke Monday morning to find her apartment building surrounded by photographers. She opened her front door to grab the newspaper, a habit from her grandmother, and was immediately blinded by camera flashes. 3 men with long lenses stood on the sidewalk, shouting questions she couldn't process through her panic. Mrs. Moretti, how long have you been married? Clara, did you know about Lorenzo's past? Is it true you met at a charity event? Clara slammed the door and locked it, her heart hammering. She grabbed her phone and called Lorenzo. He answered on the first ring. They're outside my building, Clara said, her voice shaking. There are photographers everywhere. I know, I'm sending Marcus. Pack a bag. What? No, I have work. You're not going to work today, Lorenzo said firmly. Pack enough for a few days. Marcus will be there in 10 minutes. Lorenzo? Clara, please, trust me. The line went dead. Clara stood there, phone in hand, her mind racing. She should argue. She should insist on going to work, on maintaining some semblance of normal life. But the fear in her chest was real, and she didn't want to face those cameras alone. She packed quickly, jeans, sweaters, the basics, and was zipping her bag when someone knocked. She checked the peephole and saw Marcus, his broad frame blocking most of the door. "Ready?" he asked when she opened it. Clara nodded. Marcus took her bag and led her down the back stairs, avoiding the front entrance entirely. A black SUV waited in the alley, engine running. Clara climbed in, and Marcus pulled away before she could change her mind. They didn't go to Lorenzo's penthouse. Instead, Marcus drove north, out of the city, into Westchester. The buildings gave way to trees, the noise to silence. After an hour, they turned down a private road and stopped in front of a house. No, not a house. An estate. Stone walls, manicured grounds, and a fountain in the circular driveway. "Where are we?" Clara asked. "Mr. Moretti's country house," Marcus said. "You'll be safe here." Clara got out slowly, staring at the place. It looked like something out of a movie, old money, old power. The front door opened and Lorenzo stepped out, dressed casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater. He looked tired. "You okay?" he asked. "No," Clara said honestly. "I'm not okay. There were photographers outside my apartment, Lorenzo. My apartment. How did they even find me?" "Someone tipped them off," Lorenzo said. His jaw tightened. "I'm handling it." "How?" "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do," Clara insisted. "You keep saying you'll be honest with me, so be honest. What are you going to do?" Lorenzo sighed. "I'm going to find out who sold the information and make sure they regret it. That's all you need to know." Clara wanted to argue, but she was too exhausted. She followed Lorenzo inside, and the interior was as impressive as the exterior. High ceilings, antique furniture, art that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. It should have felt cold, but it didn't. There were personal touches, books stacked on tables, a worn leather chair by the fireplace, photos in simple frames. "I'll show you to your room," Lorenzo said. He led her upstairs to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed was massive, the windows overlooked the grounds, and there was a bathroom with a tub Clara could probably swim in. "If you need anything, just ask," Lorenzo said. "I'll be downstairs." "Wait," Clara turned to face him. "What am I supposed to do here, just hide?" "Not hide," Lorenzo said. "Just take a breath. Let me handle the press. Once things calm down, you can go back to your life." "My life," Clara repeated bitterly. "You mean the life where everyone thinks I'm married to you, where I can't even walk outside without cameras in my face?" "I'm sorry," Lorenzo said quietly. "I didn't think it would get this bad this fast." "Then you didn't think at all," Clara snapped. The words came out harsher than she intended, but she didn't take them back. "You made a decision that affected my entire life, and you didn't think about the consequences. For me." Lorenzo's expression darkened, but he didn't argue. "You're right, I didn't, and I'm sorry." Clara's anger deflated. She wanted to stay mad, wanted to blame him for everything, but the exhaustion was too heavy. "I need to be alone." Lorenzo nodded and left, closing the door quietly behind him. Clara sat on the edge of the bed and buried her face in her hands. This was a nightmare. Her life had been small, boring, predictable, but it had been hers, and now it was gone, replaced by something she didn't understand and couldn't control. She lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out how the hell she'd ended up here. What? Clara spent the rest of the day avoiding Lorenzo. She explored the house, which took longer than she expected. There was a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a gym, a wine cellar, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. She made herself tea and sat in the library, curled up in a chair with a book she didn't read. Around 6, Lorenzo knocked on the doorframe. "Hungry?" Clara looked up. "Not really." "You should eat," Lorenzo said. "I made dinner." "You made dinner?" "Don't sound so surprised." Lorenzo's mouth quirked. "I told you I like cooking." Clara followed him to the kitchen, where the table was set for 2. Lorenzo had made roast chicken, vegetables, and mashed potatoes, comfort food. Clara sat down, and they ate in silence for a few minutes. "I talked to the photographers," Lorenzo said finally. "They won't bother you again." "How did you—" Clara stopped. "Actually, I don't want to know." "Probably for the best," Lorenzo agreed. "What about work?" Clara asked. "I can't just not show up." "I called Martin," Lorenzo said. "Told him you were taking a few days off. He didn't argue." Clara's grip tightened on her fork. "You can't keep making decisions for me." I know, Lorenzo said, but you weren't in a state to make them yourself. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Lorenzo's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. You want me to let you walk back into that mess? Let those vultures follow you around, dig into your life, make you miserable? I want you to ask me what I want, Clara said. Instead of deciding for me. Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. You're right. I'm sorry. What do you want, Clara? Clara opened her mouth, then closed it. What did she want? She didn't know anymore. She wanted her old life back, but that wasn't possible. She wanted Lorenzo to stop being so damn controlling, but she also wanted him to keep protecting her. She wanted to hate him, but she didn't. I don't know, she admitted. That's okay, Lorenzo said. You don't have to know right now. They finished dinner, and Clara helped him clean up. It was strangely domestic, standing side by side at the sink, washing and drying dishes. Lorenzo's arm brushed hers, and Clara felt that jolt again, the one she kept trying to ignore. Can I ask you something? Clara said. Always. Why do you live out here? I mean, you have the penthouse in the city. Why keep this place? Lorenzo dried his hands on a towel, his expression thoughtful. My grandmother left it to me. She raised me here after my parents died. Clara's chest tightened. I didn't know. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, Lorenzo said. I was 8. Car accident. Drunk driver. That's awful. Lorenzo shrugged. My grandmother did her best. She was tough, but she loved me. This house, it's the only place I've ever felt safe. Clara looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't seen before. Vulnerability, pain. He wasn't just the dangerous, powerful man everyone feared. He was someone who'd lost everything and built himself back up from nothing. Thank you for telling me, Clara said quietly. Lorenzo nodded. Come on, I'll show you the grounds. They walked outside and the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The property was massive. Gardens, a pond, woods that stretched as far as Clara could see. They walked in comfortable silence, and for the first time since the gala, Clara felt like she could breathe. It's beautiful here, she said. It is, Lorenzo agreed. I don't come out as often as I should. Too much work in the city. Maybe you should make time, Clara said. Lorenzo glanced at her. Maybe. They reached the pond, and Lorenzo sat on a bench overlooking the water. Clara sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Can I ask you something now? Lorenzo said. Sure. Do you regret it, saying yes to all this? Clara considered the question. Did she regret it? Her life was upside down, her privacy was gone, and she was tied to a man who terrified and fascinated her in equal measure. But she also wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't the woman who took insults and smiled. She was someone people noticed, someone people respected, even if it was only because of Lorenzo. I don't know yet, Clara said. Ask me again in a month. Lorenzo smiled faintly. Fair enough. They sat there as the sun disappeared and the stars came out, and Clara realized she didn't want to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that scared her more than anything else. Walt. The next morning, Clara woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. She got dressed and went downstairs where Lorenzo was in the kitchen reading the newspaper. Morning, he said without looking up. Morning. Clara poured herself a cup of coffee and sat across from him. What's the plan today? No plan, Lorenzo said. You're free to do whatever you want. Read, explore, relax. Marcus can drive you back to the city if you want to leave. You're not going to keep me prisoner here? Lorenzo looked up, his expression serious. You're not a prisoner, Clara. You never were. If you want to leave, you can leave. But I'd feel better if you stayed a few more days, just until things settle. Clara nodded. She didn't want to admit it, but she felt safer here. The world outside felt hostile now, full of cameras and questions, and people who wanted to dissect her life. Here, it was quiet, peaceful. I'll stay, she said, for a few days. Good, Lorenzo said. He folded the newspaper and stood. I have some work to do, but I'll be around if you need me. Clara spent the morning in the library, actually reading this time. Around noon, her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Clara Bennett? The voice was male, professional. Yes? This is Detective Ryan Hayes, NYPD. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Lorenzo Moretti. Clara's blood ran cold. I'm not... It's nothing formal, Hayes said quickly. Just a conversation, off the record. I don't think I should talk to you without a lawyer, Clara said. Smart, Hayes said. But I'm not trying to trap you, Ms. Bennett. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From Lorenzo Moretti, Hayes said. I know this is hard to hear, but he's not who you think he is. He's dangerous, and if you're involved with him, you're in danger too. Clara's grip tightened on the phone. I appreciate your concern, Detective, but I'm fine. Are you? Hayes pressed. Do you know where he gets his money? Do you know what he's done? How many people he's hurt? I'm hanging up now, Clara said. Wait, Hayes said, but Clara ended the call. Her hands were shaking. She stared at the phone, her mind racing. The detective's words echoed in her head. Dangerous. Not who you think he is. In danger. She knew all that. Lorenzo had told her himself, but hearing it from someone else made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Who was that? Clara jumped. Lorenzo stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. A detective, Clara said. Hayes, he wanted to talk about you. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. What did he say? That you're dangerous, that I should stay away from you. Clara looked at him. He said he wanted to protect me. He doesn't want to protect you, Lorenzo said, his voice hard. He wants to use you to get to me. How do you know? Because that's what they do, Lorenzo said. They find someone close to their target, someone vulnerable, and they pressure them until they break. Hayes has been trying to build a case against me for years. He's got nothing. So now he's going after you. Clara's stomach twisted. What am I supposed to do? Nothing, Lorenzo said. Don't talk to him. Don't answer his calls. If he shows up, you call me immediately. And if he arrests me? He won't, Lorenzo said firmly. You haven't done anything wrong. I'm lying to everyone, Clara said. I'm pretending to be your wife. Isn't that fraud or something? Lorenzo crossed the room and knelt in front of her chair, his hands on the armrests. Listen to me. You are not in trouble. I will not let anything happen to you. Do you understand? Clara nodded, her throat tight. Lorenzo's gaze was intense, and she could see the worry beneath the calm exterior. He was scared. For her. Okay, she whispered. Lorenzo stood and pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. He'll handle Hayes. You don't have to deal with this. Lorenzo. I mean it, Clara. This is on me, not you. Clara watched him walk away, already dialing, and she felt the weight of everything crashing down. She wasn't just pretending anymore. She wasn't just playing a role. She was in this, really in this. And there was no easy way out. But that night, Lorenzo knocked on her bedroom door. Clara opened it to find him standing there, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. Can I come in? He asked. Clara stepped aside, and Lorenzo walked to the window, staring out at the dark grounds. My lawyer says Hayes is fishing, Lorenzo said. He doesn't have anything concrete, but he's not going to stop. What does that mean for me? It means you need to be careful, Lorenzo said. Don't talk to anyone you don't trust. Don't give interviews. And if anyone approaches you claiming to be law enforcement, you call me first. This is insane, Clara said. I'm not cut out for this. I file expense reports, Lorenzo. I don't deal with detectives and lawyers, and I know, Lorenzo said. He turned to face her. And I'm sorry. I pulled you into my world without thinking about what it would cost you. That was selfish. Yes, it was, Clara said, but her voice lacked heat. She was too tired to be angry. Lorenzo stepped closer. If you want out, I'll make it happen. I'll tell everyone we broke up. I'll make sure no one bothers you again. You can go back to your life. Clara looked at him. She should say yes. She should take the out he was offering and run. But instead she asked, Do you want me to leave? Lorenzo's expression shifted. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. No. Then I'm staying, Clara said. Clara, I'm staying, she repeated. I'm scared, and I'm in over my head, but I'm not running. Not yet. Lorenzo closed the distance between them, and before Clara could process it, his hand was cupping her face. His thumb brushed her cheek, and Clara's breath caught. You're the bravest person I know, Lorenzo said quietly. I'm not brave, Clara said. I'm terrified. That's what makes you brave, Lorenzo said. They stood there, inches apart, and Clara felt the pull, the magnetic, undeniable pull that had been growing since the night of the gala. She should step back. She should put distance between them. But she didn't. Lorenzo leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. Clara didn't. His lips brushed hers, soft and tentative, and Clara's eyes fluttered closed. The kiss deepened, and Clara's hands found his chest, gripping his shirt like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Lorenzo rested his forehead against hers, his hand still cupping her face. I shouldn't have done that, he said. Why not? Clara asked. Because you deserve better than this. Better than me. What if I don't want better? Clara said. What if I just want you? Lorenzo's eyes searched hers, and Clara saw the conflict there, the desire, the fear, the guilt. Then he kissed her again, harder this time, and Clara stopped thinking. She just felt. They stumbled toward the bed, hands fumbling, breaths ragged. Lorenzo pulled back just long enough to ask, Are you sure? Yes, Clara said. She'd never been more sure of anything in her life. Clara woke the next morning to find Lorenzo already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. Hey, she said softly. Lorenzo looked back at her, and his expression was torn. I shouldn't have. Last night was a mistake. Clara's chest tightened. A mistake? Not like that, Lorenzo said quickly. He turned to face her fully. I don't regret it, but I took advantage of you. You were vulnerable, and I— Stop, Clara interrupted. She sat up, pulling the sheet around her. I made my own choice. You didn't take advantage of me. I wanted it. Clara— No, listen, Clara said firmly. I'm not some helpless victim, Lorenzo. I knew what I was doing, and if you're going to apologize for last night, you can leave right now. Lorenzo stared at her, and then slowly he smiled. You're something else, you know that? So I've been told, Clara said. Lorenzo reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I don't know how to do this. Relationships, feelings, it's not my world. It's not mine either, Clara admitted. But maybe we can figure it out together. Lorenzo's smile widened. Maybe. They spent the rest of the morning in bed, talking and laughing and learning each other. Clara told him about her childhood, her parents who died when she was young, her grandmother who raised her, the quiet life she'd always thought she wanted. Lorenzo told her about his grandmother, about the empire he'd built, about the enemies he'd made along the way. Do you ever wish it was different? Clara asked. That you could just be normal? Every day, Lorenzo admitted. But normal isn't an option for me. Not anymore. Why not? Because I've done too much, hurt too many people. There's no walking away from that. Clara reached for his hand. You're not a monster, Lorenzo. You've made mistakes, but that doesn't mean you can't change. I don't know if I can, Lorenzo said. Then let me help you, Clara said. Lorenzo looked at her, his dark eyes full of something she couldn't name. Then he leaned in and kissed her, slow and deep, and Clara felt something shift. This wasn't just physical anymore. This was real, and that terrified her more than anything else ever had. They stayed at the estate for 3 more days, and Clara felt herself falling deeper with every passing hour. Lorenzo was different here, softer, more open. He cooked for her, walked with her through the grounds, held her at night like she was something precious. And Clara let herself believe, just for a little while, that this could work, that they could work. But on the 4th morning, Marcus appeared with news that shattered the fragile peace they'd built. There's been an incident, Marcus said, his expression grim. In the city, Victor Castellano's people hit one of your warehouses. 2 men are dead. Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted. The softness vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. When? Last night, Marcus said. They want a meeting, tomorrow, neutral ground. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Tell them I'll be there. Marcus nodded and left. Clara stood frozen, her stomach in knots. What does this mean? She asked. It means Victor's making a move, Lorenzo said. His voice was flat, emotionless. He's testing me, seeing how far he can push. And what are you going to do? I'm going to push back, Lorenzo said. He looked at her and his expression softened just slightly. I need to go back to the city. You should stay here. No, Clara said immediately. Clara, I said no, Clara repeated. If you're going, I'm going. We're in this together, remember? Lorenzo looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He just nodded. Okay, but you stay close to me. And if things go bad, you do exactly what I say. Understood? Understood, Clara said. They left for the city that afternoon, and Clara felt the peace of the estate slip away with every mile. By the time they reached Manhattan, the weight of Lorenzo's world had settled back on her shoulders, heavy, oppressive, and impossible to ignore. And she knew deep down that things were about to get much, much worse. The penthouse felt different when they returned. Colder. The city lights that had once seemed beautiful now looked harsh, unforgiving. Clara stood by the window while Lorenzo made phone calls in his study, his voice low and tense. She could hear fragments, names she didn't recognize, locations, threats barely concealed beneath polite language. When he finally emerged, his face was drawn, older somehow. The meeting's set for tomorrow night, Lorenzo said. Warehouse in Red Hook. Neutral territory. What happens at the meeting? Clara asked. We negotiate. Or we don't. Lorenzo poured himself a drink, something amber and expensive. Victor wants to expand into my territory. I'm not going to let that happen. And if he doesn't back down? Lorenzo downed the drink in one swallow. Then people die. Clara's stomach twisted. She'd known, intellectually, that Lorenzo's world was violent. But hearing him say it so matter-of-factly made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Can't you just, walk away? Let him have whatever he wants? It doesn't work like that, Lorenzo said. If I show weakness, every rival I have will come for me. I'll lose everything. And everyone connected to me becomes a target. Including me, Clara said quietly. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Including you. Clara crossed the room and took his hands. They were cold despite the warmth of the apartment. Then we deal with it, together. You shouldn't be involved in this, Lorenzo said. I should send you back to the estate, somewhere safe. I'm not leaving, Clara said firmly. You don't get to protect me by pushing me away. That's not how this works. Lorenzo pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he was trying to shield her from the world. I'm terrified of losing you, he said into her hair. I've lost everyone I've ever cared about. I can't. You're not going to lose me, Clara interrupted. She pulled back to look at him. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. Lorenzo kissed her, and it tasted like desperation, like he was trying to memorize her in case this was the last time. Clara kissed him back just as fiercely, trying to tell him without words that she wasn't going to disappear, that she was stronger than he thought. When they broke apart, Lorenzo rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. The words came out rough, unpracticed, like he wasn't sure how to say them. Clara's breath caught. What? I love you, Lorenzo repeated. I know it's too soon. I know I have no right to feel this way, but I do. Clara's eyes burned. She should be scared. She should run. But instead she heard herself say, I love you too. Lorenzo's expression cracked, just for a moment, and Clara saw the vulnerability beneath. Then he was kissing her again, and they stumbled toward the bedroom, both of them needing the connection, the reminder that they were alive and together, and maybe, just maybe, they could survive this. The next morning, Clara woke to find Lorenzo already gone. A note on the pillow said he had things to handle before the meeting. Clara tried not to think about what things meant. She showered and dressed, then wandered the penthouse feeling useless and anxious. Around noon, her phone rang. An unknown number again. Clara hesitated, then answered. Ms. Bennett? It was Detective Hayes. I need to see you, today. I told you I'm not talking to you, Clara said. 2 men are dead, Hayes said bluntly. Murdered in one of Lorenzo Moretti's warehouses. And I have reason to believe he's planning retaliation. If you know anything, I don't, Clara lied. Then meet me anyway, Hayes pressed. Just for coffee. 15 minutes. You're not in trouble, Ms. Bennett, but you will be if you continue protecting him. Clara's hand tightened on the phone. Where? Hayes gave her the address of a diner in Hell's Kitchen. Clara hung up and immediately called Lorenzo. It went to voicemail. She tried Marcus. Same thing. She stood there, phone in hand, trying to decide what to do. She should wait for Lorenzo. She should tell him about Hayes and let him handle it. But something in the detective's voice had gotten to her. 2 men are dead. She thought about Lorenzo's cold expression when Marcus delivered the news. I'm going to push back. What did that mean? How many more people were going to die? Clara grabbed her coat and left. The diner was exactly what she expected. Vinyl booths, fluorescent lights, and coffee that probably tasted like burnt rubber. Hayes sat in a corner booth, and he stood when Clara approached. He was younger than she'd imagined, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a rumpled suit. Miss Bennett, thank you for coming. He gestured to the seat across from him. Coffee? No, Clara said. She sat but kept her coat on. You said 15 minutes. Clock's ticking. Hayes smiled faintly. Fair enough. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Do you know what this is? Clara opened it. Photos, crime scenes, bodies. Her stomach lurched, and she closed it quickly. What the hell? That's Lorenzo Moretti's handiwork, Hayes said. Or his associates. Same thing, really. That man in the first photo testified against one of Lorenzo's partners, shot in his own home. The woman in the second, journalist investigating money laundering, car accident that wasn't an accident. The third... Stop, Clara said. Her hands were shaking. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand who you're protecting, Hayes said. Lorenzo Moretti isn't some misunderstood businessman. He's a criminal, a killer, and the longer you stay with him, the more danger you're in. I know what he is, Clara said quietly. Hayes leaned forward. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's in way over her head. You're a good person, Miss Bennett. I can tell. You don't belong in this world. You don't know anything about me, Clara said. I know you work in accounts receivable. I know you've never even had a parking ticket. I know you're exactly the kind of person Lorenzo targets. Vulnerable, isolated, desperate for something more. Hayes's voice softened. He's using you, Miss Bennett. Whatever he's told you, whatever promises he's made, it's all a lie. Men like him don't change. Clara stood. I'm leaving. Wait. Hayes reached across the table, but Clara was already walking away. She pushed through the door and out onto the street, her heart racing. She pulled out her phone and called Lorenzo again. This time he answered. Where are you? He asked immediately. Hell's Kitchen. Detective Hayes called. I met with him. There was a long silence. Then Lorenzo said, his voice dangerously quiet, You did what? I needed to hear what he had to say, Clara said. He showed me photos of people who are dead because of you. Clara. Is it true? Clara interrupted. Did you have those people killed? Some of them, Lorenzo said. Not all, but some. Clara closed her eyes. She'd known, but hearing him confirm it made her sick. Why? Because they were threats, Lorenzo said. Because in my world you eliminate threats before they eliminate you. I'm not going to apologize for surviving, Clara. I'm not asking you to apologize, Clara said. I'm asking you to help me understand. Because right now I don't know if I can do this. Where are you exactly? Lorenzo's voice was tight. I'm sending Marcus. Clara looked around and gave him the cross streets. Lorenzo, we'll talk when you get here, Lorenzo said. Don't go anywhere, and don't talk to Hayes again. The line went dead. Clara stood on the sidewalk, people streaming past her, and felt utterly alone. The black SUV appeared within minutes, and Marcus didn't say a word as Clara climbed in. They drove in silence back to the penthouse, and when Clara walked in, Lorenzo was waiting. Are you okay? He asked. No, Clara said. I'm not okay. Hayes showed me photos of dead people, Lorenzo. People you killed. I didn't kill them personally, Lorenzo said. But I gave the orders. Yes. How many? Clara asked. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Do you really want to know? Yes. 7, Lorenzo said. Over the past 10 years, 7 people who were going to destroy everything I built. 7 people who would have killed me if I hadn't acted first. Clara's legs felt weak. She sat on the couch,
her head in her hands. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. Lorenzo sat beside her. I told you who I was. I didn't hide it. I know, Clara said.
But knowing it and seeing it are different things. Do you want to leave? Lorenzo asked quietly. Clara looked at him. His expression was neutral, but she could see the fear in his eyes. He was waiting for her to say yes, to walk away like everyone else had. And part of her wanted to. Part of her wanted to run as far and as fast as she could. But another part, a larger part, couldn't imagine leaving him. Despite everything, despite the violence and the danger and the lies, she loved him. And she couldn't just turn that off. I don't know what I want, Clara admitted. I'm scared, Lorenzo. I'm terrified. But I can't walk away. Not yet. Lorenzo pulled her close and Clara let herself lean into him. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it. I wish I could be different. I wish I could give you a normal life. I don't want normal anymore, Clara said. I just want you to be honest with me, always, even when it's hard. I will, Lorenzo promised. I swear. They sat there for a long time, holding each other, and Clara tried not to think about the meeting tonight, tried not to think about what might happen, but the fear sat heavy in her chest, refusing to be ignored. Boom. Lorenzo left at 8. He tried to make Clara stay at the penthouse, but she refused. They compromised. She would ride with Marcus to the warehouse, but stay in the car. If anything went wrong, Marcus would get her out. The drive to Red Hook felt endless. Clara sat in the back seat, watching the city blur past, her stomach in knots. Marcus pulled up to an old industrial building, rusted and abandoned looking. Other cars were already there, expensive ones, black and sleek, with men in suits standing guard. Stay here, Marcus said. Lock the doors. Don't get out for anyone except me or Mr. Moretti. Clara nodded. Marcus got out and joined the other guards, and Clara was alone. She watched as Lorenzo emerged from another car, flanked by 2 men she didn't recognize. He looked calm, controlled, every inch the dangerous man everyone feared. He disappeared inside the warehouse, and Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. Clara's phone buzzed with a text from Lorenzo. Everything's fine. This might take a while. Stay put. Clara typed back, be careful. Always. Clara tried to relax, but the silence was oppressive. She watched the guards outside, their faces impassive, and wondered what was happening inside. Negotiations. Threats. Maybe violence. She didn't know, and that made it worse. At the 30-minute mark, something changed. The guards tensed. One of them spoke urgently into his radio. Then gunfire erupted. Clara screamed. The sound was deafening, sharp cracks that echoed off the metal walls. The guards scattered, some returning fire, some running for cover. Clara ducked down in the seat, her heart racing so fast she thought she might pass out. More gunfire, shouting. The SUV's windows were tinted and bulletproof. Marcus had told her that once, but Clara still felt exposed. She fumbled for her phone and tried to call Lorenzo. It went to voicemail. Please be okay, she whispered. Please be okay. The shooting stopped as suddenly as it started. Clara waited, barely breathing, until the door opened and Marcus climbed in, blood on his sleeve. Are you hurt? Clara asked. It's not mine, Marcus said. He started the engine. We're leaving. What about Lorenzo? He's fine. He'll meet us later. Marcus pulled away from the warehouse, his jaw tight. Castellano's men ambushed us. Mr. Moretti handled it. Handled it how? Clara demanded. Marcus didn't answer. Clara's chest tightened. She pulled out her phone and tried Lorenzo again. Still no answer. She tried 3 more times as Marcus drove, each failed call ratcheting up her panic. They reached the penthouse, and Marcus walked her upstairs, his hand on his gun the entire time. He checked every room before letting Clara sit down. He's okay, Marcus said, reading her expression. I promise. He just needs to deal with some things. What things? Things you don't want to know about, Marcus said. He headed for the door. I'll be outside. Don't leave. Clara was alone again. She paced the penthouse, her mind racing. The gunfire replayed in her head, over and over. She'd heard it before in movies, on TV, but never in real life. Never directed at people she knew, people she loved. An hour passed, then 2. Clara's phone finally rang, and she nearly dropped it in her rush to answer. Lorenzo? I'm okay. he said. His voice was rough, tired. I'm on my way back. What happened? Victor tried to kill me, Lorenzo said bluntly. He failed. Clara's stomach dropped. Are you hurt? Bruised, nothing serious. There was a pause. Clara, I need you to listen to me. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Victor declared war tonight. That means everyone connected to me is a target, including you. What does that mean? It means you're not safe here anymore, Lorenzo said. I'm sending you somewhere no one can find you, just for a few days, until I handle this. No, Clara said immediately. I'm not leaving you. Clara, I said no, Clara interrupted. We're in this together, remember? You don't get to ship me off the second things get dangerous. This isn't about control, Lorenzo said, his voice rising. This is about keeping you alive. If Victor gets his hands on you, then we make sure he doesn't, Clara said. But I'm not running, Lorenzo. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Lorenzo was silent for a long moment. Then he said, You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. I know, Clara said, and you love me anyway. I do, Lorenzo said quietly, more than anything, which is why I need you to trust me on this. I trust you, Clara said, but I'm still not leaving. Lorenzo sighed. Fine, but you stay close to me, and you do exactly what I say. Understood. Understood, Clara said. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Lorenzo said. Don't answer the door for anyone. The line went dead. Clara sat down, her hands shaking. She'd just signed up for a war she didn't understand, against an enemy she'd never met. But Lorenzo needed her, and she wasn't going to abandon him, even if it killed her. Lorenzo arrived exactly 20 minutes later, looking like he'd been through hell. His shirt was torn, there was a cut above his eyebrow, and his knuckles were bruised and bloody. Clara rushed to him, and he pulled her into a fierce embrace. I thought I lost you, Clara said into his chest. You didn't, Lorenzo said. I'm right here. Clara pulled back and examined the cut on his forehead. You need to clean that. Later, Lorenzo said. He cupped her face. I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Okay. Lorenzo took a deep breath. Marry me. Clara's mind went blank. What? Marry me, Lorenzo repeated. For real. Not just for show. I want you to be my wife, Clara. Legally, officially, in every way that matters. Lorenzo, we've been together for a few weeks. I know, Lorenzo interrupted. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I also know that I love you, and I don't want to waste time pretending I don't. I almost died tonight, Clara. And the only thing I could think about was you, how much I need you, how empty my life would be without you. He got down on one knee and Clara's breath caught. I don't have a ring, I don't have a speech, but I have this. I will love you for the rest of my life. I will protect you with everything I have, and I will spend every day trying to be the man you deserve. Will you marry me? Clara's eyes burned. She should say no. She should tell him they needed time, that this was too fast, that she wasn't ready. But looking at him, bloody, bruised, vulnerable, she couldn't imagine saying anything but yes. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, yes, I'll marry you. Lorenzo stood and kissed her, and Clara felt the world shift. This wasn't just a lie anymore. This wasn't pretend, this was real and terrifying and absolutely right. When they broke apart, Lorenzo rested his forehead against hers. I promise I'm going to keep you safe, he said, no matter what. I know, Clara said, but you have to promise me something else too. Anything. Promise me you'll come back to me, Clara said. Whatever happens with Victor, whatever you have to do, promise me you'll come back. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. I promise. Clara wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that love could conquer violence, that they could build something lasting in the middle of chaos. But deep down, she knew the truth. Lorenzo's world didn't make room for happy endings, and the war with Victor Castellano was only beginning. But they spent the rest of the night planning. Lorenzo called his most trusted people, Marcus, his lawyer James, a woman named Sophia, who apparently handled his finances. They gathered in the penthouse's study, and Clara sat quietly in the corner, listening. Castellano has 40 men, Marcus said. Maybe more. He's been recruiting. We have 30, Lorenzo said, but ours are better trained. Numbers still matter, Sophia said, especially if he brings in outside help. He won't, Lorenzo said. Victor's too proud. He wants to handle this himself. That's an assumption, James warned. Assumptions get people killed. Then we make sure we're ready for anything, Lorenzo said. He looked at Clara. Which means Clara stays here, with round-the-clock security. Clara opened her mouth to argue, but Lorenzo held up a hand. This isn't negotiable. I need to know you're safe so I can focus on ending this. Clara wanted to fight, but she saw the desperation in his eyes. He was barely holding it together, so she nodded. Okay? Okay, Lorenzo repeated. He looked relieved. Sophia, I need you to move our assets offshore. Everything liquid. If this goes south, I want Clara taken care of. Lorenzo, Clara started. Please, Lorenzo said. Just let me do this. Clara fell silent. The meeting continued for another hour, and by the end, Clara's head was spinning. Contingency plans, escape routes, safe houses. It sounded less like a business and more like a military operation. When everyone finally left, Clara and Lorenzo were alone. He poured himself another drink, and Clara noticed his hands were shaking. You're scared, she said. Terrified, Lorenzo admitted. I've been in fights before. I've dealt with rivals. But never like this. Victor wants me dead, Clara, and he's not going to stop until one of us is gone. Clara crossed the room and took the glass from his hand. Then we make sure it's him. Lorenzo pulled her close. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Clara said. But you're stuck with me anyway. Lorenzo laughed, the sound rough and pained. I love you. I love you too, Clara said, and she meant it. Despite the fear, despite the danger, despite everything, she meant it. They went to bed that night holding each other, both of them knowing that tomorrow might bring violence, might bring loss, might bring an end to everything they'd started to build. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And Clara held on to that with everything she had. Botab. The next 2 days were a blur. Lorenzo barely slept, constantly on the phone or in meetings with his people. Clara tried to stay out of the way, but the tension was suffocating. Marcus stationed guards outside the penthouse, and Clara wasn't allowed to leave. She felt like a prisoner, even though she knew Lorenzo was trying to protect her. On the third day, Lorenzo came to her looking grim. It's happening tonight, he said. Victor's making his move. We have intel that he's planning to hit one of my locations. We're going to be ready. Clara's stomach dropped. Where? A club in Brooklyn. One of my legitimate businesses. Lorenzo took her hands. I need you to stay here. No matter what happens, you stay here until I come back. Lorenzo. Please, Clara, Lorenzo said. His voice broke. Please. I can't do this if I'm worried about you. Clara nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Lorenzo kissed her, long, deep, desperate, and then he was gone. Clara spent the next hours pacing. She tried to read, tried to watch TV, tried anything to distract herself, but all she could think about was Lorenzo walking into danger, possibly walking to his death. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you want Lorenzo to live, come alone. Pier 17. 1 hour. Tell no one. Clara's blood ran cold. She stared at the message, her mind racing. It was a trap. It had to be. But what if it wasn't? What if this was the only way to save him? She tried calling Lorenzo. No answer. She tried Marcus. Nothing. She looked at the message again. Tell no one. Clara made a decision she knew she'd probably regret. She grabbed her coat, slipped past the guard in the hallway while he was distracted by a phone call, and headed for the elevator. She had no plan, no weapon, nothing. Just a desperate hope that she could somehow make a difference. The cab ride to Pier 17 felt like it took both seconds and hours. Clara paid the driver and stepped out into the cold night air. The pier was dark, abandoned looking. She walked slowly, her heart hammering, until she saw a figure standing by the water. Victor Castellano turned to face her, his smile cold. Mrs. Moretti, right on time. Clara's hands clenched into fists. Where's Lorenzo? Safe. For now. Victor stepped closer. You're braver than I thought. or stupider. I haven't decided which. What do you want? Clara demanded. I want Lorenzo to suffer, Victor said simply. And the best way to do that is to take away what he loves most. Before Clara could react, hands grabbed her from behind. She screamed and fought, but it was useless. A cloth pressed over her mouth, chemical smelling, and the world went dark. Clara woke to darkness and the smell of mildew. Her head throbbed, and when she tried to move, she realized her hands were bound behind her back. She was sitting on a concrete floor, her shoulders screaming from the awkward angle. She blinked hard, trying to clear her vision, and gradually made out shapes in the dim light filtering through a boarded-up window. A warehouse, abandoned from the look of it. From rust stains on the walls, broken glass scattered across the floor, the kind of place where bad things happen and no one heard you scream. You're awake! Clara's head snapped toward the voice. Victor Castellanos stood in the doorway, backlit so she couldn't see his face clearly. He walked closer, his footsteps echoing, and crouched down in front of her. I have to admit, Victor said, I didn't think you'd actually come. Lorenzo must have you completely fooled. Where is he? Clara's voice came out raspy, her throat dry. Probably tearing the city apart looking for you, Victor said. He sounded pleased. I sent him a photo about 20 minutes ago. You, unconscious, very dramatic. I imagine he's not taking it well. Clara's stomach twisted. Lorenzo would lose his mind. He'd do something reckless, something that would get him killed. What do you want? I already told you, Victor said. I want Lorenzo to suffer, and then I want him dead. You're just the means to that end. He'll kill you, Clara said. You know that, right? Even if you hurt me, even if you kill me, he'll hunt you down and make you pay. Maybe, Victor said, but it'll be worth it. Do you know what Lorenzo did to my brother? Clara shook her head. 5 years ago, my brother Marco tried to expand into Lorenzo's territory. Just business, nothing personal. Lorenzo responded by having him beaten within an inch of his life, then dumped him in front of my mother's house. Marco never recovered. He's in a wheelchair now, can't speak, can't feed himself. My mother has to watch her son waste away every single day. Victor's voice hardened. So yes, I'm going to make Lorenzo suffer, and if I die in the process, at least I'll die knowing I evened the score. Clara's chest tightened. She thought about what Lorenzo had told her. Eliminate threats before they eliminate you. She thought about the 7 people he'd ordered killed, the violence that came so easily to him, and she thought about Victor's brother, broken and helpless, and his mother watching. I'm sorry, Clara said quietly, for what Lorenzo did to your brother. That wasn't right. Victor's expression flickered, surprise, maybe. You're apologizing for him? No, Clara said. I'm apologizing because someone should, and because I mean it. What happened to your brother was wrong, but hurting me won't fix it. It'll make me feel better, Victor said. Will it? Clara asked. Or will it just make you the same as him, another person who hurts people to make a point? Victor stood abruptly. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not, Clara admitted, but I know Lorenzo. And I know that if you kill me, he won't stop until you're dead. And then someone who loves you will want revenge on him. And it'll just keep going, forever. Is that really what you want? Victor stared at her, his jaw tight. For a moment, Clara thought she'd gotten through to him. Then he turned and walked toward the door. It doesn't matter what I want, he said. This was always going to end in blood. The door slammed shut, and Clara was alone again. She pulled at the ropes binding her wrists, but they were too tight. Her shoulders ached, and fear sat like a stone in her stomach. She'd been stupid to come here, stupid to think she could make a difference. Now Lorenzo was going to walk into whatever trap Victor had set, and they were both going to die. Unless she could find a way out. Clara scanned the room, looking for anything she could use. Broken glass. Too risky. She might cut herself before cutting the rope. A piece of rebar, too far away, and her legs were free, but standing would be difficult with her hands bound. Then she saw it. A sharp edge of metal jutting from the wall where an old shelf had been torn down. She shuffled across the floor on her knees, ignoring the pain as broken glass bit into her skin. When she reached the wall, she turned and started sawing the rope against the metal edge. It was slow, agonizing work. The rope was thick, and every movement sent fresh pain through her shoulders. But Clara kept going, fueled by desperation and fear. The rope finally gave way. Clara's hands came free, and she gasped in relief, rubbing her raw wrists. She stood on shaky legs and looked around for an exit. The door Victor had used was locked from the outside. She'd heard the bolt slide. But the window, boarded up though it was, might work. Clara grabbed the rebar and started prying at the boards. The wood was old, rotting in places, and after several minutes of struggling, one board came loose. Then another. Clara squeezed through the narrow opening, scraping her arms and sides, and dropped onto the ground outside. She was in an industrial area, surrounded by other abandoned warehouses. No people, no cars, no signs of life. Clara pulled out her phone, miraculously still in her pocket, and saw it was dead. Victor or his men must have let the battery drain. She started running, choosing a direction at random. Her lungs burned, her legs felt like jelly, but she kept going. After what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, she saw lights, a gas station, fluorescent and beautiful. Clara stumbled inside, and the attendant, a middle-aged man reading a magazine, looked up in alarm. "Lady, are you okay?" "I need a phone," Clara gasped. "Please, it's an emergency." The attendant handed her the phone behind the counter, and Clara dialed Lorenzo's number with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring. "Who is this?" His voice was sharp, dangerous. "It's me," Clara said. "It's Clara." There was a beat of silence. Then, "Where are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay. I got away. I'm at a gas station." Clara looked at the attendant. "Where am I?" "Industrial Boulevard and 23rd, the man said. Clara repeated the address to Lorenzo. "Victor had me in a warehouse. I don't know which one, but it's close. He's planning something, Lorenzo. He wants to kill you." "I know," Lorenzo said. His voice was tight with barely controlled fury. "Stay there. I'm sending Marcus. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. Just wait." "Lorenzo, I love you," he said, "and I'm going to end this. Tonight." The line went dead. Clara handed the phone back to the attendant and sank onto the floor, her back against the counter. She was shaking, from cold or adrenaline or fear, she wasn't sure. The attendant brought her a bottle of water and a blanket from somewhere, and Clara wrapped herself in it, trying to stop the trembling. Marcus arrived 15 minutes later with 2 other men. He took one look at Clara and his expression darkened. "Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine," Clara said. "Just bruised. Where's Lorenzo?" "Handling Victor," Marcus said grimly. He helped Clara to her feet and guided her to the SUV. "He wants you somewhere safe." "No," Clara said. "Take me to him." "Miss Bennett?" "Take me to him," Clara repeated, her voice hard. "I'm not sitting on the sidelines while he risks his life, not again." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but you stay in the car, no arguments." Clara nodded. She climbed into the SUV and Marcus drove fast, weaving through traffic. They headed toward Brooklyn, and as they got closer, Clara heard it. Gunfire, distant but unmistakable. Marcus pulled up half a block from Lorenzo's club, where chaos had erupted. Men with guns crouched behind cars, shooting at the building. Broken glass littered the street, and the air smelled like smoke and burning rubber. "Stay here," Marcus said. He got out with the other 2 men, and they joined the fight. Clara watched from the SUV, her heart in her throat. She saw Lorenzo then, taking cover behind a pillar near the club's entrance. He was shooting back, his movements controlled and precise. He looked nothing like the man who'd cooked her pasta, who'd kissed her forehead, who'd asked her to marry him. He looked like what he was, a killer. Victor appeared from the other side of the street, flanked by his own men. He was shouting something Clara couldn't hear over the gunfire. Lorenzo shouted back. They were too far apart to reach each other, but the hatred between them was palpable, even from a distance. Then Clara saw it. One of Victor's men, circling around behind Lorenzo. Lorenzo didn't see him. No one did. The man raised his gun, aiming at Lorenzo's back. Clara didn't think. She threw open the SUV door and screamed, "Lorenzo, behind you!" Lorenzo spun, but he was too slow. The shot rang out, and Lorenzo went down. Clara's world stopped. She was running before she realized it, sprinting toward Lorenzo even as Marcus shouted at her to get back. She reached him and dropped to her knees. Blood spread across his shoulder, dark and wet. "You're okay," Clara said, her voice shaking. You're okay, you're okay. I told you to stay in the car, Lorenzo said through gritted teeth. Shut up, Clara said. She pressed her hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. You're going to be fine. Marcus appeared beside them, along with two other men. They hauled Lorenzo to his feet, half carrying him towards a cover. Clara stayed close, her hand still pressed to his shoulder. Around them, the gunfire was dying down. Victor's men were retreating, and Marcus's people were pursuing them. They got Lorenzo into the SUV, and Marcus drove like hell toward the nearest hospital. Clara sat beside Lorenzo, her hands covered in his blood, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure were true. You saved my life, Lorenzo said. His voice was weak, but his eyes were clear. You stupid, brave, impossible woman. You saved my life. You can yell at me later, Clara said. Right now, just stay awake. I'm not going anywhere, Lorenzo said. He reached up with his good hand and cupped her face. I promised you I'd come back. I keep my promises. Tears streamed down Clara's face. I know you do. They reached the hospital and the medical staff swarmed. Lorenzo was whisked away on a gurney, and Clara was left standing in the emergency room, covered in blood, shaking uncontrollably. Marcus put a blanket around her shoulders and guided her to a chair. He's going to be fine, Marcus said. It's a shoulder wound, clean shot in and out. He'll be sore, but he'll live. Clara nodded, unable to speak. She sat there for hours, waiting until finally a doctor appeared. Mrs. Moretti? Clara stood. Yes? Your husband is out of surgery. The bullet didn't hit anything vital. He'll need physical therapy, but he should make a full recovery. You can see him now if you'd like. Clara followed the doctor to Lorenzo's room. He was propped up in bed, his shoulder bandaged, looking pale, but alive. When he saw Clara, his expression softened. Hey, he said. Hey yourself, Clara said. She sat on the edge of the bed and took his hand. You scared the hell out of me. I scared you? Lorenzo said. You ran into an active firefight. What were you thinking? I was thinking you were about to die, Clara said, and I couldn't let that happen. Lorenzo pulled her closer, wincing at the movement. Thank you, for saving me, for being insane enough to care about me. You're welcome, Clara said. She kissed him, careful not to jostle his shoulder. What happened to Victor? Lorenzo's expression darkened. He got away, for now. But this isn't over. Yes, it is, Clara said firmly. Lorenzo frowned. What? It's over, Clara repeated. You're not going after him, Lorenzo. You're done with this war. Clara, he tried to kill me. He kidnapped you. I can't just let that go. Yes, you can, Clara said. Because if you don't, it'll never end. You'll kill him, and someone who loves him will come after you, and then someone who loves you will go after them. And it'll just keep going until everyone you care about is dead. She squeezed his hand. I talked to Victor. He's not a monster, Lorenzo. He's just someone who's been hurt and wants revenge. Same as you. He's nothing like me, Lorenzo said. He's exactly like you, Clara said. And that's the problem. You're both so focused on revenge that you can't see there's another way. What other way? Lorenzo asked. I can't just forgive him. I'm not asking you to forgive him, Clara said. I'm asking you to let it go, to walk away. For me. For us. For the future we're supposed to have together. Lorenzo stared at her. She could see the war in his eyes. The part of him that wanted revenge, that needed it, battling against the part that loved her and wanted to give her what she asked for. If I let him go, Lorenzo said slowly, he might come after me again. After you. Then we deal with it, Clara said, together. But we don't start it. We don't keep this cycle going. Lorenzo closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. You're asking me to be someone I don't know how to be. I'm asking you to try, Clara said. Please. For me. Lorenzo was quiet for a long time, then he nodded. Okay, I'll let it go. Clara's breath rushed out in relief. Thank you. But if he comes after you again, I know, Clara said. You'll protect me. I know. Lorenzo pulled her close, and Clara rested her head on his good shoulder. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other, and Clara felt something shift. The violence wasn't gone. It would probably never be completely gone, But for now, in this moment, they had peace, and that was enough. Lorenzo was discharged 3 days later. The bullet wound was healing well, and the doctor said he'd have full range of motion back within a few months. Clara took him back to the penthouse, where Marcus and Sophia were waiting with updates. "Victor's gone underground," Marcus reported. "Word on the street is he's leaving the city, permanently." Lorenzo nodded. "Let him go. If he comes back, we'll deal with it, but we're not pursuing him." Marcus looked surprised but didn't argue. Sophia handed Lorenzo a stack of papers. "The offshore accounts are set up," she said. "Everything's in order. And I took the liberty of setting up a trust for Clara in case—" "Thank you," Lorenzo interrupted. "That's good." When they were alone, Clara turned to Lorenzo. "What about your businesses? The legitimate ones and the other ones?" Lorenzo sighed. "I've been thinking about that. The legitimate businesses I'm keeping. The other ones, I'm getting out, slowly. I have partners, people who depend on me, so I can't just walk away overnight. But I'm done. No more gray areas. No more violence." Clara's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really," Lorenzo said. "You were right. I can't keep living like this. If I want a future with you, a real future, I need to change. And I'm going to, starting now." Clara kissed him. "I'm proud of you." "Don't be proud yet," Lorenzo said. "I haven't actually done it, and it's going to be hard. But I want to try. For you. For us," Clara corrected. "For us," Lorenzo agreed. Was. 2 weeks later, Lorenzo took Clara to a small courthouse in Manhattan. No fanfare, no cameras, no elaborate ceremony. Just them, Marcus as a witness, and a judge who married them in 5 minutes. Clara wore a simple white dress she'd bought off the rack. Lorenzo wore a suit, his arms still in a sling. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Lorenzo kissed her, and it felt different from every other kiss they'd shared. It felt real, official, permanent. "I can't believe we just did that," Clara said as they left the courthouse. "Having second thoughts?" Lorenzo asked, smiling. "Not even a little," Clara said. They went out for lunch, just the two of them, at a quiet restaurant Lorenzo knew. No bodyguards, no entourage, just a husband and wife celebrating their marriage over pasta and wine. "What do we do now?" Clara asked. "Now?" Lorenzo considered. "Now we live. We figure out what normal looks like. We make mistakes and fix them. We build something that's ours." "I like the sound of that," Clara said. Over the next few months, Clara watched Lorenzo transform. It wasn't easy. He had moments where the old anger surfaced, where he wanted to solve problems with force instead of words. But he tried. He went to therapy, something Clara had suggested and he'd initially resisted. He cut ties with his more dangerous associates. He focused on the legitimate businesses, using his ruthlessness in boardrooms instead of back alleys. Clara quit her job at Dalton Consulting. She didn't need the promotion Martin had offered, didn't need the fake respect from people who only valued her because of Lorenzo. Instead, she went back to school, pursuing the degree in social work she'd abandoned years ago when money got tight. She wanted to help people, the way she'd always wanted to, and for the first time in her life, she had the resources to make it happen. They sold the penthouse and bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, something smaller, warmer, more like a home. Clara filled it with books and plants, and Lorenzo filled it with cooking equipment and bad jokes. They had dinners with Marcus and Sophia, who were dating now, much to everyone's amusement. They took trips to the estate in Westchester on weekends, where Lorenzo taught Clara how to garden and Clara taught Lorenzo how to relax. Life wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes about money, about Lorenzo's past, about Clara's tendency to take on too much, and Lorenzo's tendency to try to fix everything. But they fought fair, and they always came back to each other. 6 months after the wedding, Clara came home to find Lorenzo in the kitchen, cooking. It had become his therapy, he said, the one thing that calmed his mind. "What are you making?" Clara asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Chicken parmesan," Lorenzo said. "Your favorite," Clara smiled. "What's the occasion?" Lorenzo turned in her arms. "Do I need an occasion to cook for my wife?" "No," Clara admitted, "but you look like you have something on your mind." Lorenzo's expression turned serious. "I do. I wanted to talk to you about something."
Clara's stomach tightened. Okay. I've been thinking about the future, Lorenzo said. Our future. And I want to know, do you want kids? Clara blinked. She hadn't expected that question. I don't know. Maybe? Do you? I didn't think I did, Lorenzo admitted. But lately, I've been thinking about it more, about what it would be like to have a family. A real one with you. Clara's chest tightened with emotion. I think I'd like that someday. When we're ready. When we're ready, Lorenzo agreed. He kissed her forehead. No rush, we have time.
Clara leaned into him, and they stood there in the kitchen holding each other, and she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, genuine hope for the future. A year after the courthouse wedding, they had a second ceremony. This one was the celebration. Friends, family, people who mattered. They rented out a vineyard upstate, and Clara wore a dress that made her feel like a princess. Lorenzo cried when he saw her walking down the aisle, which made Clara cry, which made half the guests cry. Vanessa and the other women from Dalton Consulting weren't invited. Neither was Martin. Clara had run into him once, months earlier, and he'd tried to apologize for how he'd treated her. Clara had looked him in the eye and said, I don't accept your apology, but I forgive you anyway. Not for you, for me, because holding on to that anger isn't worth my time. Martin had looked stunned. Clara had walked away feeling lighter. At the reception, Lorenzo gave a speech. He wasn't good at public speaking, and he stumbled over his words, but the sentiment was clear. He talked about how Clara had saved him, not just from Victor's bullet, but from himself. How she'd shown him there was more to life than power and revenge. How loving her had made him want to be better. When it was Clara's turn, she kept it simple. A year ago, I was invisible. I let people walk all over me because I didn't think I deserved better. And then this man, she gestured to Lorenzo, stepped into my life and changed everything. He saw me when no one else did. He made me believe I was worth something. And yeah, he's not perfect. He's stubborn and overprotective, and he thinks he can solve every problem with money or intimidation, but he's mine, and I wouldn't change a single thing. The crowd erupted in applause. Lorenzo pulled Clara into his arms and kissed her, and Clara felt the weight of the past year, the fear, the violence, the uncertainty, fall away. They'd survived. They'd built something real. And whatever came next, they'd face it together.
What?
2 years later, Clara stood in the nursery of their brownstone, rocking a baby girl with dark hair and Lorenzo's eyes. Lucia Rose Moretti had arrived 3 weeks earlier, screaming her way into the world and immediately wrapping both her parents around her tiny finger. Lorenzo appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted and happy. Is she asleep? Finally, Clara whispered. She laid Lucia in the crib and tiptoed out of the room. Lorenzo closed the door quietly, and they both collapsed on the couch. I don't know how people do this with more than one kid, Lorenzo said. Good thing we're stopping at one, Clara said. Lorenzo laughed. For now. Clara looked at him. You want more? Maybe, Lorenzo said. In a few years, when we're not walking zombies. Clara smiled. She leaned against him, and Lorenzo wrapped his arm around her. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the city outside and their daughter's soft breathing through the baby monitor. Do you ever think about how we started? Clara asked. That night at the gala? All the time, Lorenzo said. I think about how different things would be if I hadn't stepped in, if I'd just let you walk away. Do you regret it? Clara asked. Not for a second, Lorenzo said. Best decision I ever made. Even though it almost got you killed? Even though, Lorenzo confirmed. He turned to look at her. You saved me, Clara. In every way a person can be saved, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. You already do, Clara said. She kissed him. We both made mistakes. We both did things we're not proud of. But we chose each other, and we keep choosing each other. That's what matters. Lorenzo pulled her closer. I love you. I love you too, Clara said. They stayed like that for a long time. Two people who'd found each other in the chaos and built something lasting. The road had been messy, violent, and anything but smooth. But they'd survived, they'd grown, and they'd learned that love, real love, wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing to stay, even when things got hard. It was about seeing someone at their worst and loving them anyway. It was about building a life together, one imperfect day at a time. Clara thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago.